how are we tracking this? Like, how often do you revisit your goals? And how do you track it? With any goal, it has to be measurable. Otherwise,
Right.
it's just a want. I want to go do this. Well, cool. You don't have to measure it. But if you want to set it as a goal, then there has to be some action item, some end result that we can compare to. How do you, one, set that, to track it?
Yeah. So it depends on, again, the level of the goal. So macro goals, I would probably suggest, and this is what I tell mentoring clients, I would suggest that you visit the macro goals, the guiding light goals, once a year, maybe once every 6 months if you're in a developing business, because if your business shifts that drastically, that quickly, you might need to revisit those goals. But then you have like operational goals or short-term financial goals, and the more specific and the more detailed they get, the more often you're probably going to have to revisit them because there's more changing. So what I would suggest is you set some high-level goals that you spend a lot of time thinking, because you're only going to visit these things anticipating once a year.
So real quick, how would you define a macro high-level goal?
I mean, it depends on the business that you're in, but for a gym, I would say like, like becoming, if we wanted to be relatively subjective, in my opinion, we could say becoming the premier micro gym in a given community.
Okay.
Like, so I want to build a reputation. No, the macro goals, they can be like revenue goals and stuff like that, but it's like these are guiding lights for your core values and your mission. So they're closely tied to like your mission statement, your vision statement, your core values. And speaking to what Barry said earlier, maybe it could be like, hey, I want to be able to bring in $80,000. I want to be able to bring in $120,000 take home income to my family this year. That's also a relatively high level goal, but maybe not as high. So it really depends on where you're finding your motivation as a business owner.
So
then the next level down would be something maybe more measurable, like you're doing biannually or quarterly. And then like TJ was talking about doing quarterly goals, right, TJ?
Yep.
So what are the goals that you work on quarterly, or what are like the metrics?
So obviously when we lay out, like you said, we lay out kind of the whole year. Basically we break it down by, hey, we want to add, it's a relatively small goal, but the goal is always to add, at least 2 memberships, net 2 memberships a month. That way, it stacks. And so by the end of 12 months, we've hit like a specific number of new members, obviously net. And then obviously that kind of takes care of the revenue goals. So typically it's pretty simple really of how we set it up. So yeah. we like to have these conversations like every other Friday with our leadership team, just to make sure that we're, like you said, guiding the ship. So we come back to these, hey, where are we at? Oh, we're only have 1 membership we've added. Well, how are we going to get to that next one? Like what can we do this week to try to get to that net 2 or 3 or whatever?
That's perfect.
Along those lines, we used to do tracking those memberships, like how many do you need this month, or your net memberships. I had a big chalkboard in my office that I literally, if we needed, net 2 memberships, it had 2 written on the board. That was the goal. Or if we, if we were negative, we would write negative. So any coach or any staff member that walked by it, they knew exactly on a daily basis where we stood towards getting that goal. And
it was ever present. That's extremely important.
Super important.
You kept a scoreboard, and you kept everybody in the team involved. That's one of the things that will make, that plays to teamwork and leadership in accomplishing those goals. Here's the thing, if you talk to most business owners, coming up with certain goals and setting the goals is actually probably the easier part, right? Like, hey, I can aim for 5% growth month over month on both membership and revenue. Cool. I'll set that arbitrary goal. It's the execution. It's the process of getting your team involved, bought in to achieving that goal, and trained up so that they know how to achieve that goal. That's where the work as a business owner comes in.
Yeah, you put the plans in place, right? And then some kind of incentivizing value, right? Like one year we had a specific goal that we were trying to obtain. And obviously we talked with our staff. And once we got there, we got everyone 511 tactical vests. And it was like really cool because we didn't tell anyone we were actually going to do that. We just kept like pushing this goal, and then we surprised them with that. So it was like,
That's awesome.
Yeah, and they looked at that, and it was pretty cool to see that, you know, we took care of them, and they're all pumped for it. So
yeah, absolutely.
So Barry mentioned, you know, keeping like a tally, a running scoreboard on the office and a whiteboard. I would see that as one example of how to kind of track your goals, right? That's kind of a real-time way to track it. What are some other solutions that you guys have seen or have previously used to help keep your goal tracking centralized, where you can easily compare month over month? Is it an app? Is it a spreadsheet? Is it a whiteboard? Do you have a mentor that does it for you? Like, how have you guys done that in the past or currently?
We used to have this app, this is back in the day, and we got away from it, but it was actually really cool. It was called Commit to 3. Like every day our staff would jump on there. We'd all share it so you could see what everyone's commit to 3. And it was what were 3 things that you wanted to get done in that day. And so you'd update it either at night for the next day or in the morning. And it was just kind of cool as you're constantly it's like that incremental growth, and you have all these like commit to 3s. And it was cool because it was like, was it a big thing or was it just something small? Like you wanted to do whatever.
And was that shared with like the rest of the team, or is that
the whole
individual?
team saw it? So everyone, you
Nice.
saw your individual, like if you saw my commit to 3s, like one of my commits was to, I don't know, clean the bathrooms or something, whatever, just something small, but like the staff saw that. And then not only was it cool to see, it was almost for accountability, right? Because you check it off when you're done. And so that someone would be like, hey, did you clean the bathrooms yet? Dang it. So I got to run in
something
there.
that someone saw too, like it's one of your coworkers or your employees that they saw you put it down, write it down. Well, so now they're expecting it of you. It's not like you made a secret list for yourself and just, you know, put it in your back pocket and sat on it for a while.
Yeah, now you got to get it done, right?
I like that.
That's great. Yeah.
I've been using this other app. Let me see if I can find it. Goal Wizard. It's a free app on Apple and iOS. But it allows you to set goals, larger goals, right? And then set different milestones so you can regularly check in, which I really like. And you can also set different categories, you know, so like if you want to have something for just, you know, business finances, business financial goal or personal financial goal or personal development goal, you know, so you can create a bunch of different ones, break it down to smaller actionable chunks, and then check in at whatever regular interval just to see that you're on your projected track. So for me, that's been really helpful. Granted, it's only been a few weeks personally, but so far it's allowed me to, in the same way, you know, a couple of episodes we talked about mindset, kind of being more intentional with what you're doing, writing it down somewhere and being able to reference it over and over again. It just reinforces what the goal is. So whenever you revisit, it becomes more and more concrete. So for me, that's been a big thing in terms of just goals and goal tracking. Yeah.
So important to write them down, right?
We have to
visually, like you don't visually see them every day. It's not really a goal. It's kind of like a wish, right?
Yeah, we had a software, and I wish I could remember the name of it, that we used when I worked with Cooper as my mentor, that had all of those high-level goals written out, and then each step or quarter broken out underneath it. And as you completed it, one of those, you'd mark it off, and then it would tell you percentage how close you are to your high-level goal. So you could, and then every month on our mentoring calls, we'd check back in and see, were we on track to reach those high-level goals or not? Were we behind percentage? Kind of along those lines too. So that was good to see.
That's kind of like the Ally thing or the Ally thing.
Ally.io.
Yeah, there's so many softwares or packages out there that you can use to track goals. The most important thing is that you write it down. What I'm hearing from you guys is that you write it down and it becomes visible somewhere, and it becomes in front of you on a regular basis. Like it stays in front of you on a regular basis. So it's like whether or not that's reminders set up in your MacBook versus an app on your phone versus on the whiteboard in the gym, in the staff room, as long as you're consistently seeing the goal and it's updating regularly, like that's the most important thing after you've set the goal. I guess you just have to, at that point, just have to figure out a way that what is best, how is it best communicated to your team, and what can they all get on board with, right?
Zach, you said something awesome on our staff meeting yesterday when we were talking about this, and it was like you asked us if we were all like ready to buy in. I think that's important with any team goal. Is everyone buying into it? You know, because if it's not everyone's bought in, it's just you have a weak point in the armor, right? You have a weak point. You're only as strong as your weak point.
100%. Yeah. So it's like, and the software that you choose or the app that you choose to communicate the goals and display them, that could be a selling point. Like if it's too hard for your staff to use, or if it's clunky, or if someone prefers something else, that might be the thing that what you're talking about, TJ, doesn't get someone bought in. So it's good that you take the time, you figure out what's the best medium to deliver this communication in. How am I going to get our staff bought in so that they can support the goals 100%? Yeah, great point.
Awesome. So if we were to sum that up, obviously it's important for one to have goals.
Yes.
But it's equally important to be able to revisit and track it. So if we're looking at solutions to be able to track it, things that you would consider are, first, how readily can I be able to access this, you know, on a regular basis, whether it's daily or weekly or whatnot. So it's always front and center at some point. And then two, what level of, how well can that solution lend itself to buy-in from the rest of my team or anyone, you know, that's part of this process. So that means, you know, you'd have to evaluate it based on, you need something, you know, very manual. And if that's just the way that your business likes to operate on just all Excel sheets, that might be the way to go. Or something like, you know, full featured and kind of enterprise type software. Like we've used that Push Press. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you're using as long as it's appropriate and it brings to light the data that you want and resurfaces the goals that you guys are after. Exactly. Well, awesome, guys. That was a very, I think, important, enlightening conversation. If any of you guys have any interesting ways to track goals, you keep a journal to yourself, you know, you have it spray painted on your gym wall. I don't know, something. Or in
the only goals I'm currently tracking are the ones in my logbook. Trying to get those lifts up so I can be as strong as TJ.
One day, young buck. One day.
One day.
You need a few inches too.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen.
People are going to take that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Take it how you take it.
No, I'm just kidding.
Just if you have any questions you really want to know, ask to see Zach's goal tracking book.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We'll catch you guys tomorrow. Later.
Take it easy.
Later.